Welcome to an hour of Healthmade Radio. Healthmade is a community for natural health seekers where we educate people about common health conditions and share extensive research on the most effective natural health treatments and promote legislation that protects our health freedoms. A core concept belief is in the innate intelligence and healing power of the body, and if properly supported spiritually, emotionally, and nutritionally, it can find its way back to health. Healthmade Radio will bring information from integrative health experts throughout the world. Check us out at healthmade.co. Health is what you make it. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt, and I will be your host. Today's guests are best-selling authors Gay Hendricks and Klein. Gay Hendricks has PhD and has served for more than 40 years as one of the major contributors to the fields of relationship transformation and body-mind therapies. He's a New York Times best-selling author, and his books include Conscious Loving and The Big Leap. Kline has devoted her career to teaching, writing, and speaking about consciousness and personal growth. She's the #1 New York Times best-selling co-author of Happy for No Reason, Love for No Reason, and 5 books in the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, and the upcoming Conscious Luck, 8 Secrets to Intentionally Change Your Fortune. Well, Carol and Gay, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show today. I'm really excited to hear what the secrets are today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Karlfeldt. It's really good to be with you.
Thank you.
Gay, I'm curious, the name of your book, because I know you're the one that were kind of starting to work on the book initially, is Conscious Luck. I mean, and that's something, when you think about luck, you always think about something that just happens to you. You don't think that is something that can be conscious. So why did you name it Conscious Luck?
Well, partly because one of my earlier books is called Conscious Loving, and the idea, both with Conscious Loving and Conscious Luck, is to, instead of just going with what you've inherited, which may not be a very lucky feeling about yourself or the world, instead of just going with what you've inherited from the past, instead make a commitment to being lucky now yourself. In other words, take charge of your own empowerment. Don't just wait for somebody else to empower you to be lucky. Because a lot of us, including myself, were not born in a particularly lucky way, and I didn't think of myself as lucky at all until I bumped into a kid when I was 14 who said he had just made up his mind one day to be luckier, and it had started happening. And that sounds like such a great idea to me that I just did it and immediately got rewarded for it. And so now later on in my life, I've seen that work so many, many different times that I started thinking, what are really the factors that make people lucky or not? And then that's where Carol came into the picture, because she's a genius at going out and finding information, like interviewing people like a professor at Stanford, Dr. Selig, that does work on conscious luck on the scientific side, and working with people and finding out what people are actually doing out there in the world. And so we put those two things together and came up with 8 different things that, if you do them, you can really expect your life to have a turn for the better in the luck department.
That's fascinating. So Carol, there's actually research done on conscious luck and how to create it.
Absolutely. I was blown away that there is a whole body of scientific literature in the positive psychology realm. Pioneering positive psychologists like Richard Wiseman and Tina Selig as Dr. Tina Selig at Stanford. And there's a lot more, and it really has to do with things that you'd find: learned optimism, that feeling that good things are going to happen. There's the feeling of mindset. There's all kinds of research on lucky charms. Who knew? And you know why lucky charms work? Because you think they're going to work.
I love it.
That blew me away. Your lucky socks are really lucky, but not for the reason you believe they are.
So it all goes back then to intention, and like you're saying, that it's a conscious decision that you're making. So a person then really can become lucky.
Yes, the thing that is so fascinating to me, and I'm so glad that Gay started this book, because I would never have thought of luck this way, but luck is really, there's only a small part of it that's chance or accidental. Most of it is the combined result of your actions, attitudes, and associations. And that is very well documented in the scientific literature. And Gay's long career, talking to people and being a therapist, plus the experiences of lucky people. And Gay himself is Mr. Luck. Boy, when you talk to this man, and I hope you will ask him about this, he's the luckiest person he knows.
Yeah, I'm curious, because I remember reading the story. You were talking about this younger boy that won this. It was a drawing, I believe, that he won, and he had that impact that he decided to be lucky. So how is that? How did that impact you? I mean, you made a decision at that time. I mean, how did that impact it? Did you immediately just become lucky, Gay?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I had something happen right after it. Well, this friend of mine we call Danny in the book, he was sitting next to me at a movie theater, and they had put all our tickets. There was about 250 people there, and they'd put all our tickets in a drawing in a goldfish bowl to draw out a winner, and the winner was going to get a watch. And before they even had the drawing, Danny leaned over to me and said, "Watch this, I'm going to win." And I said, "Okay." And sure enough, they pulled his name out. There were 3 prizes, and he didn't win the first 2, but when they pulled out the one for the big prize, the watch, there it was, Danny's name on it. And so he won this watch. And so I asked him afterwards, how do you do that? How did you predict that? And he said, I always win stuff like that. And then he told me the story about how he decided to make up his mind one day that he was going to be lucky. So I tried it on for myself, and immediately, right afterwards, I was in a magazine store that had a section that was for coin collectors, and I was a coin collector at the time. I was 14 years old, and I was an avid coin and stamp collector, like a lot of my friends were. And so I was in there near where the coin part was, and the owner, Ned, was talking to an elderly gentleman that I later learned was a famous, very wealthy coin collector. I didn't know that at the time. I just saw them talking. Well, I needed to leave because I was going to go to a Tarzan movie that was just playing up the street at the movie theater.
Was it Johnny Weissmuller?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and that'll tell you how old I am.
I love those movies myself, so I'm not going to say anything.
Well, my grandmother happened to be a major Johnny Weissmuller fan, and she was about 75 years old, but she loved Johnny Weissmuller. So if there was ever a time I could get my grandmother to take me to the movies, it was when there was a Tarzan movie on. And so anyway, I went outside of the magazine stand to go up the street to the movie theater, and there, sitting on the sidewalk next to a parking meter, was this big black satchel. And I looked at it, and then it suddenly dawned on me what must have happened. And what I thought was, somebody went to put money in their parking meter and then forgot to pick up their briefcase. And so I took it back inside. By this time, a whole drama had happened that I didn't even learn about until I got back from the movies. But I took it back inside, and Ned's eyes popped out, and he said, "Oh, my God, that's Mr. So-and-so, the famous coin collector that was just here. Where did you get that?" And I told him that I'd found it out on the curb next to the parking meter. Anyway, while I was browsing magazines and everything, the elderly coin collector did exactly what I thought he had done, and he and his wife put money in the meter, and he left the briefcase there and went on off to to get some lunch. And then I found it, and then I went to the movies. So 2 hours I was in the movies, and I came back to the magazine store afterwards, and I found that this major thing had happened where the man had locked down a whole restaurant because he thought somebody in the restaurant had stolen his briefcase. But then he came back to the magazine store, and Ned presented it to him and showed him where I'd found it. So they wanted to thank me with a big reward, but they couldn't find me because I was in the movies. So the man left for Tampa, which is where he was from. But later on, a couple of weeks later, I got this beautiful, pristine coin collection of all of the Jefferson nickels, which I was very much into at the time. But it was like the ultimate full collection of all the Jefferson nickels that had ever been made in absolutely perfect condition. And it was worth more than, I'd had at any one time in my life. I don't know what it'd be worth today, but at the time, which was when gas cost 25 cents a gallon, it was probably worth $35 or so, which was a huge amount of money. So anyway, I noticed that this happened to me right after I'd made this decision to be lucky. And it stuck in my mind that, well, hey, it's possible to change your mind and then have the outer circumstances of your life change. I didn't know it at the time, but William James, the father of American psychology, said exactly the same thing in the middle of the 19th century. He said, the greatest discovery of my time is learning that changing the attitudes and thoughts of mind will change our outer lives. And so I'd stumbled upon this major trick of the mind, so to speak, and I've made great use of it ever since.
I love it. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Healthmade Radio. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt. I'm here with Gay Hendricks and Kline. They're author of Conscious Luck, 8 Secrets to Intentionally Change Your Fortune. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Healthmade Radio. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt. I'm here with Gay Hendricks and Kline. They're the authors of Conscious Luck. So, Gay, it's almost like the universe then told you that I'm glad you changed your mind and this is your reward, and so keep thinking that way.
Yes, that was my impression, and I think it's part of learning how to use your mind for yourself rather than against yourself. I was a psychotherapist for 40 years, and I found that the greatest enemy is between our own ears. It's not outside ourselves, because I saw so many people throughout my therapy practice where they would shift something in their mind and then suddenly everything would change in their whole lives. And so I think it's one of the fundamental truths of life that as soon as we possibly can, we need to wake up to the power of our minds to reinvent our lives anytime. I teach my students, I say, you're only always one breath away from changing your life.
Yeah, and I'm curious, Carol, because from all the studies or the research that you're reading, because luck, it seems so random. If you look in mathematics, you look at all the possibilities, and then you see that the probability that this outcome is going to take place is so many percent. But that's not actually the truth. It seems like through research, you can actually increase your chances of that outcome through luck, and intentional luck, I should say.
That's a really brilliant point, actually, and a very good question, very perceptive, because what I found, and the biggest paradigm shift for me when I started looking into this, after Gay inspired me to find out about luck, is that most of us, and this is a quote from Tina Selig at Stanford, she said most of us think of luck as isolated and dramatic, like a lightning strike. And that's kind of like chance. Luck and chance are semantics we're talking here. But she said luck is actually more like wind that's always blowing. And it's up to you to build a sail. And Gay and I have given you 8 behaviors and, core belief shifts, practices you can do daily to build that sail so that you can harness luck. So luck isn't something that it's a superpower that you can develop. It's a life hack. There are so many things about luck. It is not just chance. Chance is just one aspect of luck. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So it's almost like, we have inherited luck, and we can either choose to accept it through our behaviors and thinking, or we can choose to just let it be.
Well, that's interesting, because I did have that analogy when I started thinking about it. Just like your health and just like your happiness, there is a certain amount of, constitutional health that you are born with, depending on what you do, whether you eat well, whether you sleep, whether you exercise, that can change your health. And the same thing, there is an element of genetics fundamentally. And with happiness, we have a happiness set point. One of the books that I wrote with Marcy Shimoff was called Happy for No Reason. And again, I got to study the positive psychology literature on happiness. And there is a happiness set point that is genetic, but you can raise that thing so much through your own conscious intention, through your actions, through your attitudes, through your associations.
Yeah, because it seems like you that can then create a resonance. I mean, you like to be around people that you resonate with or environments that you resonate with. So I would assume then also outcomes that resonate with who you are, they are more likely to appear.
Yes, that's exactly the way I see it. It's like a game we used to play when my brother and I were kids and riding in the back of the car. We'd pick a car color that whoever saw the most of this color would win. And, immediately then you'd start looking for that color. You'd see that color of car, whereas you may have driven past it 1,000 times before you started paying attention to that particular color. And it's the same way with luck, that a lot of the times if you begin to think of yourself as a lucky person and begin to look at life as a series of opportunities to be lucky, that's a much more empowering way to go through life than, sailing your boat with the sails up is one thing, but sailing your boat without the sails up, you're kind of at the mercy of which way the waves are going.
And again, I'm curious. So how do you change from being? I know you did it through a decision, but there has to be more of a process than just an intention. So how do you change from being unlucky to lucky?
Yes, well, we give out a number of techniques in the book, and I want to start with a couple of the simple ones that people can start with, because some of them are things you really need to sit down and work on for a little while. But just think of the power, for example, of having what we call a lucky tribe, having a group of people who think of themselves as lucky. So when lucky, good things happen to them, they don't try to minimize them or put them down. They celebrate them. And so one of the chapters in the book is called Finding Your Lucky Tribe, is about finding your lucky tribe, your people to hang out with. And, Brian Tracy, one of the motivational authors of our time and motivational speakers, says that your life basically is determined. The quality of your life is determined by the books you read and the people you hang out with. And, of course, also the radio you listen to, in your case, Michael.
Thank you.
The media you consume and the people you know. And when you think about it, where would you be? Where would I be? Where would you be, Carol, if we hadn't read a certain book or a certain set of books at a certain time in our life? I know I wouldn't be anywhere, because everything that I've learned comes from things that pointed me in a direction of taking more charge of the own empowerment of my own life, rather than waiting for it to happen to me. So I think that one of the things that we talk about a lot in the book is being around people who consider themselves lucky, who don't try to talk you out of your good things that happen to you. Because so many times in life, if you listen, somebody will say, oh, something good happened to me the other day, and then the other person will say something negative as if to kind of put it down or take the edge off of it. Well, you want to be around people who really celebrate good fortune. And so we show you a number of ways in the books to do that, but one is to start what I call riffing your Rolodex, going through your contacts and Xing out people that have a negative, dampening mood on your life, so that you don't carry around the stress of those people just in your pocket as you're walking around in the world.
I love the quote that you mentioned in the book by Mark Ambrose, "Show me your friends and I will show you your future."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great quote. I have to jump in and just say, Gay just gave us another Johnny Weissmuller moment. Most people don't know what a Rolodex is anymore.
That's true. You're really aging yourself here.
We got to talk about our contacts on our phone or something. I don't know. You call it the address book, which I love too, but nobody has an address book anymore either. So we're going to update that for the 21st century.
Yeah, there'll be an edited version of this radio show. Great, but we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Healthmade Radio. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt. I'm here with Gay Hendricks and Klein. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Healthmade Radio. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt. I'm here with Gay Hendricks and Klein. They're the authors of Conscious Luck: 8 Secrets to Intentionally Change Your Fortune. So here I've read the book. It's amazing, and it's really what's incredible is that there's just a few little pieces of information, little kind of changes in how you're thinking and what you're doing, and that can really shift the rest of your life, how you view life, and how what your future is ahead of you. So, Carol, I'm curious, and in there you also talk about luck-worthy goals. Luck chases worthy goals. Because some people, they want to feel lucky. They just want to win $1 million and then have a beach house and just sit there and enjoy life that way. But you're saying that luck follows worthy goals. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, thank you. I love that question because it was a real revelation for me. The book is divided into foundational shifts that you make, core belief shifts, and 4 daily practices. And the Lucky Goals one is actually one of the foundational practices. Our lives are really, if we're not just putting out fires day to day, we can have a life that has a direction that is from internally motivated, from something that's important to us. And a lot of people forget what's important and what's urgent. That's a Stephen Covey point, to really make sure that you keep what's important in front of you. And when Gay and I were talking about goals, we had 3 criteria that make your goals luck-worthy, that give luck a reason to visit. And one is that they really are meaningful to you, that your goals are not what someone else thought you should do. They're not something you think you should, quote unquote, do, but they're really meaningful. They speak to your purpose here. They speak to what makes you feel like you are doing something that has value. Then the second is that you love to do it. It should light you up. And I think Gay is the master of this. Gay's my role model for luck-worthy goals, because he does combine, especially those first 2, and we'll get into the third one, which he also embodies, which is, and it's really made me look at my goals, that I want to do things that I love to do, that are meaningful, and to really turbocharge your goals, to make them like a neon sign saying, luck, come here and give me a hand. You look at those goals and say, do they help other people as well as myself? Are they altruistic? Do they have something in them that basically moves the universe forward? Because when we move the universe forward in a positive way, the universe winks at us. There's synchronicities. There's like a cosmic quid pro quo. And you'll find, unexpected help and luck and things going your way when your goals fulfill those 3 conscious luck requirements. And we have techniques for helping in each 3 of those areas when you look at your goals. And a lot of people need to sit and really think about their goals. They think they need more money, or they think they want more time. But really, if you had all the money and time in the world, what would you do? That's what your goals are, not the money or time, which is a sort of canvas and the paint. But what would that painting be of? What would you do? And it's a really hugely liberating and hugely transformative thing to take time to think about those goals and then charge them to be lucky.
I love that, and it plays along with the philosophy of the holographic universe. That every component of the universe, every cell, every aspect, has complete knowledge of everything else. Which means that if one part of that component within the holographic universe sets an intention that is in line with the whole, then the whole will support that outcome.
Right.
Yeah, that's really, really powerful. And Gay, I'm curious also, how about, things like, because we all have past traumas. I know you do a lot of, you're a counselor and you help people to move through challenges in their own life. How does things like guilt and shame and all these type of emotions, what impact do they have on luck? Or do they interfere in any way?
Well, all of our emotions can interfere with our sense of ourselves as lucky. One of the deepest feelings when I worked with people in psychotherapy, about, I would say, 20,000 people over the years, one of the things I noticed, even with people that might be a Hollywood star or a famous musician, they often carried around a negative assessment of themselves. That's why 40 years ago I wrote the book Learning to Love Yourself, because I found that down at the bottom of a lot of problems in ourselves is something we don't love about ourselves. And so I discovered big areas of my body that were occupied by feelings. Like I noticed in my belly was where I would feel anxiety and kind of the butterflies of fear. And I noticed that in my chest is where I would often register things like sadness. And I would often tighten my neck or bunch my jaws or something when I got angry. So my body was a big readout of different feelings that I hadn't quite learned to love and accept yet. But one of the biggest ones I discovered and that we write about in the book was the feeling of shame. And it was a big discovery for me because I hadn't thought much about it until one moment. I'll tell the story in the book, but I had this one moment of getting in touch with a whole lot of shame I felt in my body about some childhood incidents. But what happened next was really the amazing part, because I was right in the middle of thinking about conscious luck at that time, and suddenly I realized, well, I've got this whole new area of my body that I'm in touch with now that holds shame in it, but why don't I just rededicate it as an attractor field for luck? So that's actually what I did. I can remember where I was standing when I had that idea and did it. But suddenly, what this area that used to feel shame in it, it's like I installed a new program in it, which was to use it as an attractor field for luck. And I realized also that I could do that with every other feeling in my body. And so I just went around kind of rededicating all that territory that had been occupied by my negative emotions. I rebranded it as an attractor field for luck. I know it sounds kind of weird and complicated, but it's actually, it's extremely straightforward. It's just like if you have a page open on your computer and you've got one thing written on it. I do this as a writer all the time. I just delete it and start again. And so it's like putting in a new set of instructions, which is to now use this territory as a way to attract luck.
Yeah, because when you carry that negative emotion, I mean, that has a lot of energy with it. So I would assume, like you were doing, that it's easier to just convert the energy rather than negating it. So to convert then the shame towards luck rather than try to suppress the shame.
Exactly, because what you resist persists. If you try to resist your shame or fear or anger or any other emotion, it just keeps popping up like whack-a-mole. If you try to knock it down over here, it pops up somewhere else. And so the only way ultimately to have peace of mind and peace of heart and peace of body is to accept ourselves fully as we are. Accepting our feelings, accepting our shame, fear, whatever it is there to be accepted. And as we accept it, then it loses its grip on us.
Yeah, you can use that as a force of intention and luck and blessings instead.
Yes, I really appreciate that you understand this language, and it sounds like it resonates with the kinds of things that you teach also.
Absolutely, yeah, no no question about that. Look, Carol, so I'm curious because a lot of people they want to change their luck or they want to change their intention or outcome, and they make an attempt. I'm going to be lucky, and I do these things, and then it's like their circumstances prove them wrong. I mean, how do people get through that?
That's that is the age-old question in terms of how do you go forward. You have a positive outlook, you have an intention, and yet what comes to you is not what you expected. And at that point, you have some choices. And in the book, we talk about to increase your luck, it's one of the habits you need to work with, is to find a way to feel lucky no matter what. And I really want to put a caveat here that this is not about, relentless positivity or, putting a smiley face over a gaping wound. It isn't about negating your disappointment or upset or whatever at things that maybe not go your way, but having a moment to feel those feelings and then looking we call it radical gratitude, and looking in a spirit of tremendously gentle inquiry and asking yourself, even with this, is there something I could be lucky for? And just listening. And even just that bit of, shaking yourself free from the victim quality or the disappointment or upsetness that is natural when something doesn't go our way, just a little bit of a tweak to allow you to step back can allow you to have this resilience. And they find in the positive psychology literature that people who are resilient are more lucky because they don't just stop trying. Most people, self-identified unlucky people, when something happens that doesn't go their way, they stop trying. They don't want to get hurt again. They don't, but people who are lucky find a way to learn from the situation, to get through it in a way that will help them stay open to lucky opportunities. So one of the most important parts in the practice, I think, if you can master this one, feeling lucky no matter what, because a lot of us would look at someone and say, oh, that guy's really lucky. I think Gay talked about it. He worked with Hollywood stars, and you'd think, oh, they've got it made, but they don't feel lucky. And then there are people, Gay tells a story in the book that's one of my favorites about being in India and watching some children toil for very little money a day in the hot weather to bring stones up to a temple building site. And he's thinking how terrible it is, and he's feeling so sorry for them. And then he looks a little farther down the bank, and there's some kids with their hands on, they're sitting with their heads in their hands, kind of looking enviously at those kids who get to work and get that small amount of money. So the luck is very relative, and you can use this ability to find some gratitude, some ability to appreciate, to change your luck.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Healthmade Radio. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt. I'm here with the authors Gay Hendricks and Kline. They're author of Conscious Luck, 8 Secrets to Intentionally Change Your Fortune. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Healthmade Radio. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt. I'm here with Gay Hendricks and Kline. They're the authors of Conscious Luck, 8 Secrets to Intentionally Change Your Fortune. So, Gay, I'm curious, when you're talking about kind of the victim, or I should say the people that you're associated with, and that kind of sets the tone as to who you are and how you're thinking. So how you speak and how you think, I would assume, would have the same kind of impact on you. So is it almost like you need to then have an inventory of your thoughts and of the words that you're saying in order to be able to clean that out so it's more in line with luck?
Yes, very much so. I appreciate you bringing up that particular aspect of it, which has to do with how you speak about yourself, or how you speak about yourself, particularly with regard to luck in this case. I certainly learned early in my therapy career that a lot of us go around speaking of ourselves in a very disempowering way. We talk about our limitations, or we talk about the places where we've messed up, or we do our kind of poor me sort of thing when we talk to people. And so that reinforces that sense of not being empowered in your life. But the same thing happens with conscious luck, that it's important to clean up your act, so to speak, about how you communicate, so that you're communicating as a person who thinks of themselves as lucky. part of that has to do with not all. It's like Richard Bach said in one of his books: if you argue for your limitations, sure enough, you get to keep them. And so a lot of people argue in favor of the limitations. They think of themselves as an unlucky person, and they tell stories about that. And I grew up in a family where that was very common. My mother was always telling stories about opportunities she'd missed and the time she rented out part of her land to grow watermelons on, and then there was a frost and she lost all the money that would have come in. Anyway, there was an endless fountain of stories like that. And I think that maybe they were made to have everybody feel kind of good and like we're in this together in hardship, because, these were folks who'd gone through the Great Depression and the Second World War, and in my grandmother's case, the First World War. And so we all lived together, and it was a constant, kind of like a circular storytelling circle of negative things that had happened. And I can't help but think that gave me a sense of disempowerment that I later had to overcome in my life.
Yeah, I would assume that becomes like an attractor, that to pull that energy, because that is what you feed on.
Exactly. Your social environment. That's why it's so important, like we say in the book, to really surround yourself with people that uplift you. I want to be around people that are smarter than I am. I want to be around people that are, I think of myself as the luckiest person on earth, but I want to be around other people who think of themselves as the luckiest person on earth.
Yeah, see, this is one of the reasons why I have this show. I get to talk to smart people like you guys.
Thank you so much.
And Carol, how about, sometimes we show, like if we're given a gift, we need to show an appreciation. How important is that? Like God or universe gives us a gift, here's your luck. I mean, how does appreciation and gratitude play into that?
That's a good question, because, gratitude I talked about a little bit in terms of radical gratitude, when things aren't going your way, to find that place of, seeing something to be grateful for, to turn around and open your heart and stop and be resilient and open. But appreciation has a energetic signature, and it also has a practical benefit. So the practical one is that people remember people who appreciate them. If you go to a job interview and you send a letter, if you have someone and this doesn't mean to do it in a, transactional way or a calculating way, but to be the kind of person that appreciates others' contributions to your life, to the world in general, that's the kind of person. It's a no-brainer. If you had to choose between someone who's always center of attention, center of the universe, doesn't look at other people except as a prop for their own life, or someone who's deeply appreciative, who do you want around you? Who do you hire? Who do you marry? Who do you want as an employer? You're going to be more successful and luckier in life if the more appreciative you are. And appreciation is something you do. For the purposes of our book, we said gratitude is something you feel, and appreciation is something you do. And so that practical level of be the person that you meet someone and you talk and you send them a note. At the end of each day, do a little inventory of people that you met during the day and send them a little note. I guarantee you will be luckier, because a lot of our luck comes from our networks and our connections, and the viral quality, the 6 degrees of separation in the world right now means that you can tell something to someone, and 4 friends away is going to be the person that's going to hire you or buy your screenplay or just, be your best friend. Or your luck is we're also interconnected. So appreciation goes a long way in making you an attractive person and attracting luck in that way. And then on the level of energy, I think I've already sort of covered that with what I've just said, is that open-hearted quality of appreciation is something that draws that to you, like attracts like, but it also makes you someone that people want to be around. It definitely increases your luck. Yeah. And when you look for things to appreciate, you see them. I think Gay talked about his his game with his brother about looking for the blue cars. That's a function of your reticular activating system in your brainstem, which opens, it filters what you're perceiving, because we get so many more bits of information than we can process. So you have somebody there who's a gatekeeper saying, yeah, ignore that, look at that, ignore that. So if you've programmed yourself to be appreciative, to be someone who looks for the gifts and a way to express your gratitude and appreciate people's contribution to our world and to you, then you're going to see it more too. It just opens your heart right up.
And can it be a tendency also that, like you're saying, actually, I'll ask Gay this question. If you're playing this game, you're looking at just blue cars, and that's what you're seeing, so now you're attracting blue cars into your life. But can it also be sometimes that you become fixated, that you are creating limitations on your luck, and you're defining luck and saying that if this happens, then I'm lucky, but then not opening up your vision to see all the possibilities of luck?
Yes, I think it's a growing thing. I think it works like, have you ever dropped a pebble into water and then watched the concentric circles go out from there? It's kind of like first you have to make some little move that changes your thinking. Like you have to say, okay, I'm willing to be luckier today than I was yesterday. That's where I ask a lot of people to start. I just give them that idea, and I ask them to repeat that every few times a day. Today I'm willing to be luckier than I was yesterday, and tomorrow I'm willing to be even luckier than I am today. And so to begin to focus on changing your mind, the center of things first, and then it gradually begins to move out through your emotions and through your social interactions on out in the world. But like almost every type of change, it has to begin with a sincere inner commitment inside yourself that you want to make that change.
And I would assume also not to then restrict the possibilities or constrict the possibilities.
Yes, exactly. I tell a story in the book about how I was late from my plane arrived late, an hour late in Dallas-Fort Worth, and I was trying to transverse this huge 3-mile long walk in there that I kept missing the little train that would go by. And so anyway, it was taking me forever to get around to where my plane was. And while I was walking toward it at top speed, I saw on the panel that it was closed. It had boarded. And so I ran up to the kiosk, and just then there was this other passenger just berating the clerk and saying, no, I must be on this flight. I have a ticket. And she said, well, I'm sorry, sir, you arrived late. We gave it away or something. And so he was furious, and he marched off down the passageway. But I just kind of sat there and breathed and actually made a little contact with the clerk. I said, rough day, huh? And the person said, yeah. And so shortly, though, one of the flight attendants came jogging out from the jetway, opened the door and came jogging up and said, I heard a little whisper conversation, and the clerk turned to me and said, well, we miscounted. We do have a seat, and it's in first class. Would you like it? And so, boom, I went from, in a couple of minutes, from missing my plane to sitting in first class. And I bet that if that fellow in front of me had been nice to the person and would have still been standing there, maybe the clerk could have helped him. But instead, he pulled a temper tantrum and gave me his spot, and I collected the lucky break.
I love it. Well, I really appreciate you two being on the show with me today. I'm obviously, in addition to reading the book, which everyone should read, it's it just reprograms how you're thinking and who you are, and it has a tremendous amount of very practical exercises that you can do to help to change how you are viewing the world and your luck within it. So what are there any additional resources that you would like to point our listeners to over and above, in addition to reading your book, obviously?
Well, we have this wonderful.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Carol. Please tell them.
No, go ahead, Gay. You go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna put in a plug for the website, the consciousluck.com website, and then you can fill them in on other things we have.
Well, consciousluck.com is where you can go to hear all about all things conscious luck. And we do have some tools there. There's a wonderful self-assessment and focus guide tool that you can just click on and download and get a sense of where you are on the conscious luck spectrum. And you can also, for pre-ordering the book, we have a bonus, which is a wonderful conscious luck activator meditations, one for morning and one for evening, to help jumpstart your conscious luck journey. And there will be more. So consciousluck.com is where you can go to find out more about buying the book, about hearing about other programs that could, and also free bonuses and downloads that you can have just for visiting.
Great. Well, thank you so much both for coming on my show today. I really appreciate it.
We were lucky.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Karlfeldt.
That is it for today. You're listening to Healthmade Radio. Remember to check us out at healthmade.co. Health is what you make it.